This is Jason Stallings, and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite bands, Ride. So, Ride is a UK shoegaze indie alternative rock band from Oxford, UK. They rose to prominence in the late 80s, early 90s. Longtime bands such as My Bloody Valentine, Slowdive, Lush, and Swerve Driver. Chapter House, to name a few. Where the sort of like typical band that would sound like this is described as having a the sort of noise rock equivalent of a giant vacuum. Luckily, and maybe just what sticks out about this band is their tendency more towards kind of melodic songwriting, and like there's no shortage of sonic experimentation, but they tend to lean more towards like a Pink Floyd influence, whereas like My Bloody Valentine might sound more like Sonic Youth, sort of. No, not to say there's any lack of sort of sonic texture to this band, but their singing tends to be more harmonized, sort of like Gilmore-esque. I guess if there's any way for me to say that accurately. But in around 92, they put this wonderful album, Going Blank Again. This is technically their second full length. They released an EP called Smile and a LP called Nowhere. Now recently I watched them play the House of Blues in Dallas. They did a small tour of the United States. This is a recently issued reissue of some of their earlier EPs. They had a couple of EPs that made up their Smile sort of LP, if you will, if you want to call that an LP, where they sound a little more rough around the edges in a good way, a little more of a kind of like, you know, sonically textural, like loud band. The harmonized, kind of like soothing falsetto, like ish vocals that Mark Gardner and Andy Bell often collaborate with, it's definitely present on that first record. But as they evolved, some of their textural sensibilities have kind of gone into more ethereal, atmospheric territory, more melodic, pop-oriented songwriting, especially on Going Blank Again. They even had a period with Carnival of Light and Tarantula where they kind of veered more towards like traditional 70s psychedelic rock. And what's really great about this band is, what makes them unique is like there's a really good, strong backbone of like musicality, songwriting. Like these are four people that can really play their instruments. Even though you have in a genre that's not known for its frontmen, two very strong song singers and strong frontmen, Andy Bell and Mark Gardner. So Steve and Laws is a really strong rhythm section. There's a few album cuts like Making Judy Smile, where you hear like a really nice, strong sensibilities for like writing good like bass lines. Their drumming is fantastic, especially live. It was interesting about like you sort of have these really strong jumps in each album in terms of songwriting quality. You have like Nowhere is definitely less on the like pop hooks spectrum and more on the sonic experimentation, but like you hear this evolution into kind of like they sound like they're going through their metal Pink Floyd. If you've ever heard that album, it's very soothing, very calm, very atmospheric. That's the kind of like space they're in. Whereas Going Blank Again is going to be more their like Dark Side of the Moon, and they're more like kind of like Wish You Were Here-ish type songwriting. I mean, they were never that kind of moody, but I mean, you also hear some pretty strong Smiths influences in Going Blank Again. But yeah, no, like, and the track record of this record is such. You've Leave Them All Behind, which is very much like, it reminds me of hearing like a shortened version of Echoes, and Tostarella kind of almost portrays a little bit of a Beatles influence. So like, there's a really strong like musical history in this band that comes through in these songs. They're about to put a record out in the next few months. I was lucky enough to hear a new song on it called Peace Sign that was great. And it's really noticeable when you see them live. Even though when I saw them, they more or less did a run through of Nowhere, which is kind of you could argue, historically significant album. But like, that's very much like this meditative, pensive kind of like it's loud, but like it's a restrained kind of loud, and it's a nuanced and complex kind of loud. But when you get in, like, they did a few of their later songs, like even some stuff on their Weather Diaries, and they didn't do anything off of This Is Not a Safe Place, which is unfortunate because that really is a great record, though. That sounds like the least, even outside of Tarantula, that sounds like the least right record I've ever heard. But it still sounds like them. It sounds like them trying to mature and grow in a direction. Maybe it did mixed results, but I think it's still a good record. I mean, like, they're never a band that's necessarily chased any kind of trends, but like, you can hear them trying to evolve in a direction with that, maybe away from shoegaze. But yeah, I mean, like, the first half of this record sort of has these kind of poppy kind of songs like Chrome Waves, Not Phased. They're clearly attempts to write commercial tunes. Whereas Kill Your Boots, Making Judy Smile, Time Over Time, and Time Machine are great songs, but they're definitely more on the like, okay, we have a hook and we're just trying to create an atmosphere around it. And but yeah, I think it's really one of the strongest albums of the 90s, one of the more underrated ones. But I mean, they're never a band that got really very big here in the United States. But from what I understand, it's kind of like Stereophonics. Like, if you know, anywhere else in the world, like, they would be a big deal. Like, when I saw them at the House of Blues, it was a very small show, very restrained, but like, it kind of gradually grew, and they opened for the Charlatans, which, no disrespect to the Charlatans, it's kind of like seeing like a Kmart version of Oasis. Not bad or anything, just like the difference in quality and like interest for me was like, right, it was amazing, and they were interesting, they were iconic, and Charlatans were just like kind of like a caricature. Like Lester Singer, he's just like, I call him like Mop Top Kmart Liam Gallagher. Anyway, actually, I wouldn't take to kind of like that, but it's kind of the vibe I got. That being said, like, if you listen to a couple early Charlatans records, they do have some really solid tunes, so I don't want to knock them too much. Anyway, on this album release, the EPs, like a Daydream is probably one of my favorite songs by them, and that's like got this really nice rocks energy. And with the second half of that release being the EPs that made up like about a half of Nowhere, like, you see an evolution, you see some like interesting songs, but like, they're not quite there. Like, by the time you get into the song Nowhere, they're starting to discover their pop hooks and things like that. But yeah, fun note, when I was in like middle school and high school, this band actually did have a song on TRL in pretty high rotation. It's called I Don't Know Where It Comes From. It was on Carnival of Light. Actually a pretty really great song. And that album specifically has a song that I absolutely adore called Endless Road. It almost sounds like this kind of hazy southern like Motown kind of thing. But yeah, like, even though this is a band that has like large sound, large loud textures. They've always been kind of had this like harmonized, subtle, nuanced, like falsetto vocals. So like the vocals are great, but they are kind of in stark contrast to what you would expect a band like this to sound like. And that's kind of what's interesting about them. So anyway, yeah, Ride. Absolutely recommend seeing them if you can. They're not an easy band to catch, especially in the United States. But I definitely recommend checking their records out. They're a lot of fun, and they make some wonderful music. Thank you for listening. I'm also an artist. Check out my work at jason-stallings.com. If you've got any questions, leave a comment, shoot me a message. I'll see you soon.